Welcome, Jesse. I really appreciate you making the time here today, joining us and sharing some of your insights with teachers or soon-to-be teachers. Why don't you introduce yourself before we get started?
Yeah, sure. I'm Jesse Schell. I am the CEO of Schell Games in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which is a video game studio that has about 140 people and produces both entertainment and education games. I also am a professor over at Carnegie Mellon University, where I help teach classes in virtual reality and game design at the Entertainment Technology Center.
Excellent. Now, you didn't just start Schell Games coming straight out of school. What did you do before?
Yeah, previously I had been the creative director at the Disney Virtual Reality Studio. I worked there from about 1995 to 2002, working on virtual reality experiences for the Disney theme parks, as well as Toontown Online, which was a massively multiplayer game that Disney produced. And that was where I met Randy Pausch, who was a Carnegie Mellon professor who had been doing a sabbatical at Disney. And that was kind of what made the connection for me to come back to Pittsburgh to Carnegie Mellon to start teaching, because Randy was one of the founders of the Entertainment Technology Center.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. Really appreciate it. And that's why we call this Talking with Legends of Industry. Legendary Jesse Schell. So, Jesse, you mentioned in your company, you're not only doing entertainment games, but educational games. Tell us why educational games and not just entertainment games.
Well, yeah, I guess for a few reasons. I mean, one reason is the mission of our company. Our mission statement is to build experiences we're proud of with people we like in order to make the world a better place. And education is definitely one of those things that makes the world a better place. Entertainment can do that too, but education can do it in ways that are much more powerful. We found that it was something we were interested in and something we found that we were good at. And also we've found that as a studio, having a diverse set of types of work that we do is really good for longevity. Our studio has been around 20 years now and has been very healthy. And part of that has been that we have a diverse set of projects. We tend to have 4 lines of business: entertainment games for home, education games, health games, and then also theme parks and museums. And so what we find is when one of those starts to wane a little bit, another one often starts to blossom a little bit. And so that helps us stay very stable. So we really like doing the educational games. And it was funny because when people first started coming to us, and because in the beginning we didn't do that. We didn't do education games. We just did entertainment. And I think people assumed that we did because I was an educator. And so people started asking, hey, do you think you could do this educational game, that educational game? And I kept thinking, why don't you guys just go to the really great educational game makers in the world? And I looked around and I'm like, oh, there's not that many. That's actually a fairly sparse space. And it occurred to us that if we got really good at it, that it could be some steady business for us, and we could do it well. Because what we find very often, the people who are looking to fund these games, they have an idea of how they want the education to work, but they have no idea how to make it entertaining. And so in a peculiar way, the fact that we're not entirely focused on education makes us better at doing education, because we have a lot of strength in terms of creating entertainment experiences.
Yeah, and you sure have put out some really amazing products over the year. So what do you see the biggest challenge for the adoption of game-based learning? Considering game-based learning has been around, or educational games, longer than Pong, than video games. What do you see the challenges is, and why we don't see more widespread adoption?
I think there is a problem market-wise with creating educational games. It has to do with the way education fits into people's lives. People are, as much as we as a society talk about valuing education, we value it in very specific ways. Most people in their in their spare time when they go to relax, don't dive right into a challenging educational opportunity, right? This was the reason, for example, that public television had to be created, because it was realized that if they put educational programs on commercial television, people wouldn't watch them enough to make the advertising dollars work. And so they just dropped off the channels, and it was necessary to create a separate channel to be able to kind of create this kind of material. So you've got that question of like what people do in their spare time, but then you've got the other question of, well, how can we integrate games into our formal education process? And that has its own challenges because of the nature, because the formal education processes are very slow to change. They partly for a lot of reasons, some good and some bad. Part of it is education is very important, and it's very slow to experiment with. If you have a theory that this new way of teaching kindergarten students to read, this is going to really make an impact on people's lives, and by the time they grow up, they're going to have better careers. Well, how long is it going to be before you know whether that hypothesis worked, right? So this is a problem. This makes educational experiments slow. And of course, everybody wants to be very careful. No one wants to teach people the wrong thing and have them grow up confused. So it's a big mixture of things. And then not the least of which is also the marketplace. There is, it can be hard to find the right way to market educational games, not only to direct to consumers for kind of casual use, but then also into institutions. The institutions have ways of buying books and ways of buying equipment, but they don't have good ways of buying software. They're actually very challenged at purchasing software. So you've got content that is hard to create going into systems that are slow to experiment with, that aren't good at buying them. So that doesn't mean it's hopeless. It just means you have to look for the right opportunities and experiment in the right ways and be a little clever, because this is going to be you have to think of games going into education as a long campaign.
Well, you just mentioned it. Thank you. I really appreciate the insight and the opportunities. What do you foresee really the biggest opportunities for game-based learning?
Do you mean financial opportunities or
or educational opportunities? Either one. Is it really up to you which one you want to?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the ability to make the most difference fastest, it really comes down to the educators, because there is so much game-based content out in the world, and more we have systems out there that have incredible flexibility. You look at things like Minecraft and Roblox, and you can kind of make them into whatever you want to make them into. And so for educators who see an opportunity to kind of take their topic and weave it into some of these existing pieces of software that are out there, you can do that now. And another great way is when you look at these kinds of software that can be used as creativity tools. Things, and I think both Minecraft and Roblox fit that mold, right? You as an educator might not really understand how to do Minecraft, but if all your students understand it and you give them an assignment of, create something in Minecraft that has to do with the topic at hand, right? It could be, something about geography or something about history or mathematics, create a demonstration in Minecraft that illustrates Newton's third law. You can do that. And then students will be in there making use of these things as a tool of creativity. I think those are some of the fastest, most immediate opportunities. I do think longer term, we're going to see games woven into whole curricula. People are going to figure out the right way to do that, but it's challenging to do that. It's one thing to make a few calculus games. It's another thing to make an entirely interactive, robust calculus curriculum. It gets to be a very large and expensive endeavor.
Yes, and as you know, we're working on exactly that. Thank you. Now you mentioned what the teachers can do. Now you worked obviously with teachers for a long time and saw them, helped them adopt game-based learning. As you encounter somebody who's already doesn't have a lot of time available on their hand, also have to learn a new game like Minecraft, what tips do you have for somebody that's really challenged for time to embrace, learn a new medium, just trying to catch up with their regular lives? How could they go about really embracing game-based learning and maybe form communities or other ways of helping each other?
Yeah, first I would say connecting with other educators who might already have some tips and maybe have already created some content. Finding ways you can, people are often very happy to lend lesson plans and those sorts of things. And then another way is to go to the students, find the students who know the most about something and give them extra credit assignments of helping you to figure out how to get this and how to understand it. That's just that can be a great way to do it, because students who are really excited about what they know, they're eager to find ways to share it. And particularly if there's the promise of, oh, if I get to share something with the teacher and the teacher is now going to kind of use that for the whole class, that can be something that some students will really get into. So you don't have to lead all of it yourself. You can just find the people who already know something about it and get them to lead the way a little bit. You do have to go into this stuff a little bit willing to experiment, and you got to have a plan B if things kind of don't work out the way you want, because it does take some amount of trial and error, but it really is about getting in there and trying some stuff and kind of accepting the idea that the first time you do it, it's not going to be perfect, and that's okay.
Well, thank you. This fits perfectly into this entire course, helping teachers understand how to bring game-based learning or make their own games into the classroom. One of the things that we found is actually most effective when teachers work with students and have the students design games for their own learning on the topic.
Yeah.
What kind of tips, as one of the legendary game designers, you have for a teacher who's not necessarily familiar with the design language and so on, to get started making games and helping students in their classroom to make games?
Yeah, so I guess first you got to decide what area of games do you want to work on, because you can do things as simple as card games and board games or athletic games or party games. You can start places as simple as that, or you can get into more digital spaces. And it mostly comes down to just a huge amount of it is bravery. Just sort of, yep, I don't understand all of it. But kind of following your instincts and diving in and trying this and trying that. And particularly for one of the things that students are always most interested in is they'll have games that they like, and they're very interested in doing things that imitate those games. And so sometimes you don't have to get into the big innovative language of games, of inventing radically new games. Sometimes it can be, we're going to take something you already like and we're going to put a little spin on it that has something to do with our topic. And of course, if you're already, there are some topics that are just right up the middle in terms of creating games, right? Maybe you're doing something about programming or something in the STEAM area, and in which case you're talking, you're blending art and engineering, and you're sort of just putting these things together. But even if you don't know all the fancy language and terminology, it really comes down to talking about what do you like and what don't you like. Being able to talk clearly about just what is it in an experience you like and don't like. The character moves too fast and it's hard for me to control. Okay, that's that's something that you observed and you like. So what should we do? Let's try slowing it down and see, does it feel better? Most of what we do in game design and development is thinking about, what do we like about this? What don't we like? What might we like better? What might somebody like better? That's most of what design really is. And anyone can do that, but you have to think about those things and you have to be able to express them, and then you have to experiment. And that's really the most important thing to understand about game design. Nobody just goes in and gets it right. What we do is we make a bad game and we look at it and realize it's bad and it's not what we want, and then we try again and we, oh, that's not it, and we try again and again and again. It is a very, very iterative process. Anybody who's been waiting on a game sequel to come out and keeps wondering, why is it so late? Why are they taking so long? That's why. It's because we kept trying stuff and like, ooh, that didn't work. We're gonna need a couple more months to work this out and work that out. So if you shouldn't feel bad if you try making a game, it's like, oh, this isn't very good. Yeah, that's what happens. That's how this works. You keep making a bad game until you can turn it into a good game. That's what we do. And you have to, if you can accept that and feel okay about that, it's an incredible learning experience.
Thank you. And by the way, Jesse's written a fabulous book on game design, Book of Lenses. It's actually on my shelf, and I constantly refer to it. You'll see I post a link to it here. Highly, highly recommended. Viv said, actually, here's an opportunity. I know most places don't allow you to do this, but here, because we're talking to teachers and aspiring teachers, anything you want to share with them, any of your games that they should check out, or other books that you recommend for them?
Okay, yeah, for teachers in particular, you got me thinking. So certainly if you're trying to create games, so yeah, you mentioned my Art of Game Design book. What can be almost more useful is I made this deck of cards that goes with the book, because the concept of the game design book is that good game design happens by looking at your game from many different perspectives. And so there's all these cards that are on different topics with different questions that you might ask yourself about the games. And a very easy way to kind of get students involved is just, as if they're working on a game, just deal a few cards at random and get them to think, do any of these questions pertain to you, right? You might get the lens of secrets and ask the question of, do secret, would things in my game were secret from one player, or would secrets help my game somehow? And so that's something you can think about. So this is, you can purchase this deck of cards, but also there's a free app that you can download that is basically a digital version of that. Another book I would recommend would be Matt Farber's book, which is around here somewhere. Let me see if I see it right here. No, I don't see it, but maybe it'll leap out at me. But Matt Farber is a teacher as well as kind of an expert on educational games. And he has a book all about how to use games in the classroom. And I think that's a very good one. I'm sure there's a couple more. And as I think of them, I'll let you know. I could maybe send you some links afterwards. But a few people have made made books that are expressly designed for teachers to help teachers integrate games wisely into the classroom.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing. Any of the games that you've created recently or a while ago that you want to share and give a shout out to?
Let's see. So for educational games in particular, boy, I got to think about it. There's been a lot. I mean, we've done a lot of educational games we're proud about. For preschoolers, we've worked on the Daniel Tiger games with the Fred Rogers company, and so you can find all those on the PBS website if you're dealing with preschoolers. We love the Daniel Tiger show, and finding ways to adapt the Daniel Tiger sort of strategies and strategy songs into interactive experiences that's been really fun. Let's see, other things. Lately, we've been doing a lot of focus on virtual reality for education. One that I'm very proud about is an experience called HoloLab Champions. So this is designed for high school students doing chemistry. And so it is a virtual reality chemistry lab, but we cast it in the form of a game show. And so it's, if you can imagine a game show where if your lab skills are good, you win the game show, it's kind of like that. And so that game is free to download for all educators. Now you have to have some virtual reality gear in order to experience it, but that's one that we're very proud of. Another more unusual one is another virtual reality experience called History Maker VR. And in this one, you put on the headset and you become a historical figure. You might become Abraham Lincoln or Sacagawea, and but you're in a television studio. And so the idea is you can upload a speech that you've written and now perform this speech in front of the television cameras as this animated character. And the system tracks your head and it tracks your hands, and it's got a microphone, so it automatically makes the mouth of the character move. And it outputs a video that you can put up on YouTube or whatever you want to do with it. And what we've found is students really get into this as a creative activity. The idea of becoming an animated character and being able to kind of ham it up without having to do that in front of their peers, right? Because it's one thing you give that assignment where, oh, you're supposed to dress up as somebody, give a speech, and everybody kind of giggles at you in front of the room, and some people are really embarrassed about it. Now you can kind of do it privately, and we've definitely seen some students really come out of their shell about that. Students who would be afraid to talk in class can often be very creative with this as a separate tool. Again, it's a little out there because it's a virtual reality product. Other games that we've done, we've worked with the Yale Play to Prevent group, and we've helping to create games about reducing the risk of HIV. And we've been working on a new one all about addressing the opioid crisis. And that one's not out yet, but it will probably be out, I would think, later this year.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for sharing.
Sure.
Before we go, do you have anything else you'd like to share with our teachers or soon-to-be teachers?
I guess the only thing I can, the only thing I'd say is it is a really exciting time to be teaching and educating, because there are so many new ways to do things and so many new ways to try doing things. And so, yeah, I guess what I'd say is don't be shy about experimenting, because if you get out there and you start trying some things and you learn from it, not only are you going to be learning, and is a lot of it going to work, and some of it's going to work, but also this is going to create an opportunity for you to share with other educators out in the world. I think that's one of the wonderful things about social media right now. There's a lot we can complain about social media, but the ability for people to share things that they've created with each other and to form communities that way, this time is unparalleled. And so if you're an experimenter, like, don't keep your experiments to yourself. Try some stuff, get it out there, talk to other people, because somebody is going to appreciate the things that you're trying and the lessons that you're learning as you try different things and figure out what's working best.
Well, thank you. I really, really appreciate your time, and on behalf of our audience, thank you so much, and we hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day.
Okay, sure thing. And anyone can feel free to reach out to me, jesseschell.com. All my information is there. And I'm happy to answer email questions and any way I can be helpful.
Well, fantastic. Much appreciated.